Hello. Sir. Hello. Hello. Okay, sir. Start. So, good afternoon, everyone. It is an honor and a privilege for me to welcome you to the today's or last session of the research person. On behalf of BLD Management and Principal and HUD Civil Engineering Department, we would like to express our heartily welcome to the today's research person, Dr. Abhilash Raj. Abhilash sir has currently working as a scientist at the National Institution of Hydrology with demonstrated history of working for nearly 10 years. He has done BE in RV Engineering College, Masters and VTU Gold Medalist at Water and Land Management from VTU. In the verge of completion of PhD in SCADA Irrigation Management at NIH, he is experienced as a senior GIS scientist and he headed Center for Geoinformatics Division at EMPRI under Forest Department. He was a coordinator and assistant professor at the Jain University for 2 years. He is skilled in CAD, GPS, and DGPS technology and a GIS application in hydrology and water resource engineering. He has been a technical consultant for the irrigation and water resource department. He was an author in developing GIS manual for ADP, AC, IWRM, and Sustainable Water Service Delivery in Karnataka. Additionally, he was a part of various other reports to the government and private sectors, and some of the relevant are action plan for MI tank and groundwater MJ watershed in overexploited region in Karnataka, geohydrological study for watershed management for the watershed Ajampura canal area and Upper Bhadra project, web-enabled GIS-based water resource information system for a major project Harniki, KRS and other projects CNNL, the river regeneration action plan at a various river stretches for art of a living NGO. So with this brief explanation, I welcome to the today reserve person Abhilash sir. Thank you very much for invitation to this. Now the Professor S.P. Vata will hosting this session. Thank you.
Speaker for this session. I would like to ask Abhilash sir to continue his video session. Thank you everyone for all the participants. Soon we will be sending you a link to share the feedback. So once this session ends, we can discuss about the feedback. Thank you so much. Sir, Abhilash sir, you can take over the video session.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Hello, good afternoon, one and all. Hope my voice and the PPT is audible and clear enough. So let me start with the GIS applications in water resources. It's some of the case studies already I've went through these projects. One is hydrological studies, hydrodynamic studies, which will include the flood studies, hydrogeological investigation, which has a component of geology, and some groundwater investigation, assessment and management applications of GIS, and surface water investigations. There are some case studies of environmental applications, watershed development and management, and finally the irrigation management. I have few case studies which is not completely on my own, which I have been involved. So it's I'll be giving the acknowledgement of which agencies I've been working with on these projects. And I will also give you an introduction on how GIS techniques have been used in these case studies and how interpretations have been done. So let me proceed with, just a second. Okay, here I have few case studies on urban watershed management, one case study on integrated water resource management, One of the case study which has been used in environmental studies and policy making, which has been used for legal purposes. One more case study is on hydrogeological studies, and maybe I can give you a few applications of GIS on flood studies also. So let me proceed with the first case study, that is on urban watershed management. So to introduce you how we are in the status of exploiting the water resources in the urban area, I would like to introduce you to a term called anthropocentrism. So what does this mean is, it is the belief that human beings are the most significant entity in the universe. How does this word apply in our water resources is, you know, the general hydrological cycle. So we have been seeing that in every component of the hydrological cycle, there is a human interference, which has been affecting this hydrological cycle. May it be ocean or groundwater or surface water, or if you want to even see how it is impacting the rainfall. So a lot of climate change aspects which are impacting the precipitation aspects. Then some people also want to avoid evaporation from the reservoirs by different methods. So these are all measures which are taken to the benefits of the humans. It is by nature, it might be happening something else, whereas humans want it their way. That calls for anthropocentrism. So let me tell you about the GIS applications in the groundwater in the initial case study which I am referring. So here what we can see is, in the world water reserves, as many of you know about this, majority of the fresh water is in the groundwater resources, that is in the aquifers. So here how humans are exploiting the groundwater resources, and how GIS has been a very helpful tool in assessing the groundwater resources and its management is through this case study I'll be briefing you. So let us see the major sources of groundwater recharges are the lakes and other recharge structures, maybe the canals, the unlined canals or the streams, and the major part component is the lakes. So in this case study, we are identification of lakes and boundaries, how we have proceeded with that. A location of lakes on satellite imageries and studying trends of lake status. Change detection of land use land cover in lake and its buffer zone as per regulations. So there are certain regulations or manual which gives us the guidelines on how to arrive at the land use land cover, which may be useful for different purposes. Maybe it's for legal or environmental aspects or policy making or even hydrological modeling or even the groundwater modeling. So using digital elevation model, which we usually use for identification of streams, drains or low-lying regions vulnerable to floods or any other uses. So hydrological modeling to compute runoff in urban microcatchments for lakes. So here, the big question is, how do you identify the boundary of the lake? Because most of the lakes have been encroached or it has been converted into different other land use for human uses. So here, see, this map is of 1876. So in 1876, the government has taken up a large-scale land use survey where they have established all the boundaries. You might have been known the land parcels and their boundaries. So similarly, you have the lake boundaries also. So here with the GIS techniques, what we are doing is we are overlaying it on the satellite imagery. And with various techniques, what we'll be doing is we'll be establishing the lake boundary and we'll be studying how much encroachment has been done and so on. Those studies will carry on. So here with this GIS technique of integrating the old maps into the satellite imagery of the latest images, we can identify what is the cause of deterioration of these lakes, or it might be used in many of the hydrological or hydrogeological studies. So here the scale of this map is around 7,920, which means that the accuracy is around 2 meters, which I'll give you the equation later. Here you can see this is one of the lake in Dharwad district, that is near Hubli Dharwad region. So here you can see trend, which is the increase of urban layouts in and around the lake, because this was supposed to be agricultural lands before, and recently it has been converted into urban areas. See, here you can see how in 2003 it was, and in 2006 how the layouts has been expanding. This is called the urbanization impacts on the lakes. Here you can see slowly the impact of lake also can be seen from before. See, this is in 2006. As years pass by, and due to urbanization or many other impacts, it might be due to climate change and different other impacts. So here you can see as we come up to 2013 and 14, you can see how the urbanization has been expanding and how it has impacted the lake status. So this is the impacts in 2016. It has been like this. So 2017, this is the study which we had done earlier. So here, as I was saying, the revenue survey maps are around in the scale of 7,920, which means that whenever you arrive at the resolution or accuracy of the cadastral maps, you'll get around 2 meter accuracy, 1.98 meters as the accuracy. So whatever you prepare the maps or whatever the themes you arrive out of the basic maps, it will be of 2 meter resolution. And as you can see, these are the land use land cover which we generally talk about, which is of a higher scale. This is 1:50,000, which is of lesser use in decision making. It is widely used for hydrological studies in certain models. So here you can see in 2006 it was like this, and in 2012 there is a lot of this red color, which means the urbanization and built up regions have improved. So here we are using one imagery, that is Cartosat 1, which is 2.5 meter resolution. So 2.5 meter resolution and the cadastral maps of 2 meter resolution nearly matches. So whatever the studies we take up, we have to match the satellite imagery resolution with the basic data, the collateral data which we are. Green color boundary is the village boundary of the cadastral map, and this yellow color is the lake boundary which we have digitized. So here near the Unkal lake also, one of the lake, here you can see how the stream pattern which was before, I'll just zoom out, which was in 2003, this was the natural course of the stream, and slowly when urbanization has expanded, so you can see the yellow color, the stream path which has been modified. So this might not be a natural course of the stream, and it would have affected a lot of inflows or any other impacts which has not been studied. So the environmental impact assessment of this urbanization never considered. So we can see a lot of lakes which has been going in absence, which is defunct. So this is another digital elevation model which many of you know, where we use it to digitize the catchment area in the absence of topo sheets. Otherwise, topo sheet is the best source for digitizing the catchment area, because the DEM resolution, the resolution of this DEM, the accuracy, that is, this is a 2.5 meter resolution satellite imagery based DM, that is a Cartosat 2, which provides 3 times the accuracy. Kindly note that is the 3 times accuracy of the DM, that is based on the 2D satellite imagery pixel resolution. That is 2.5 into 3, it comes up to 7.5 meter resolution, which we generate into 10 meter resolution because of the 10 meter contours, which is widely used in 1:25,000 scale topo sheets. So here you can see just we can get an approximate idea on the catchment areas for different streams. So one more important application of GIS which is booming is the GIS apps. So we are able to develop GIS application which is apps which is either for iOS or Windows or even Android. Excuse me. So we have developed, I was involved in developing this one of the GIS app where we inventorizing the water bodies were carried out in Hubli Dharwad region. So here you can see this gives the name of the surveyor and what date he is doing the survey, and these are the screenshots of the phone. How we have been tracking all the lakes, the status of the lakes. You can develop your own survey sheets here where you can see different aspects are there. This is the general, this is the administrative boundary, this is the morphometric characteristics, and this is the water quality, water status, and this is the biodiversity, whatever the issues are there, and site photos. These are all the surveying app capabilities which we have developed. You can expand it to your own requirements. So as you see here, this app also gives the real-time survey information to the server. So anybody accessing from the office on this administrative rights of this app can get the real-time data of how many lakes have been surveyed and what type of lakes and which taluk district or water quality, what type of graphs and all are real time. And it also gives who are the field assistants who have been surveying, and you can see who has done more surveys and how they are carrying out. If there is any errors which can be seen lively on this survey app, you can rectify it and you can command the field officers to correct their mistakes and redo the survey there itself, instead of repeating the survey on another day, because certain information getting from sites is time based. To collect the readings at certain timings which is specified. So here you can see on what date they have surveyed and what time, and also you'll get the photos, and also you'll directly get the shape files which is coming from the survey. So this is a work of EMPRI, which is a government organization, and in association with Lake Development Authority and ISRO, we had carried out one more survey based on these GIS apps and GPS readings and even revenue survey maps. This you can see the Bangalore lakes, the red color ones are defunct, which has been not functional anymore, and the blue color ones are the existing ones, and all the lakes have been surveyed and geo in this manner. So this is a platform for decision making on management of lakes and water resources in the urban area. This is a case study of urban area GIS applications in water resources, which is in urban scenario. A case study which is of a small satellite towns, which was initiated of my mentor, which is who is Dr. Y. Lingraju. So that I have been presenting. This is not exactly my work, but I was involved in the study. So here, this is one of the satellite town. Let me skip. Simple thing is we are checking the sustainability and the drinking water demand, where based on population we'll be arriving at the drinking water demand and we'll be exploring the sources. Here you can see 98% of water sources in the satellite towns and regions in it. There's no surface water sources for the rural areas around Bangalore. And this is the study area here, Godbala. And this town, what we have done is to assess the water quality, we have used the GIS technique where we have surveyed nearly 136 bore wells, and we have plotted the groundwater levels. As you can see, the groundwater levels ranging from 275 feet to 1123 feet. Here you can see borewell depth. So here in this map, after plotting the contours of water levels, you can identify which are the regions which are highly exploited and which are the regions which are which can be exploited for groundwater. So, and which areas can be planned for recharge, all such things can be arrived from these maps. So here we have used rainfall data, Survey of India, topo sheets. One application of GIS or remote sensing is what I wanted to tell in this case study is, anyway, this is the rainfall data, and we have arrived at normal rainfall data, and we have done 90% dependability for yield and secondary yield at average rainfall. The important aspect of this study, which I want to highlight, is the use of LIDAR technology, where we'll be surveying the whole town for nearly just 3 days, day and night survey using this terrestrial LIDAR. This technology is the terrestrial LIDAR, where you can see this unit. This is the terrestrial LIDAR which can be mounted on vehicles, and within 1 second it can take a large amount of cloud of data. That is around maybe it can around 76,000 points. So it can draw huge amount of point cloud from this LIDAR technology. And the advantage of this technology is it can be carried out day and night. So this technology is in use, and this is the output of the town, the complete survey of the town. You can see the digital elevation model has been done, and this is the town location. Here you can see, as you can see the town. And as I told you, this is a scene from the aerial LIDAR. Aerial LIDAR are mounted on drones or either a short aircraft. So you can see this is the terrestrial LIDAR. This is not the terrestrial LIDAR. This is the aerial LIDAR output, which is of the Unkal Lake downstream. Here you can see the Unkal Lake downstream. This is the Nala which is going out of Unkal Lake. And this is the output of the, so this is more accurate, and this is a very high resolution, where you can see these are the point clouds. This is the Unkal Lake Bund, and this is the downstream. So here what I wanted to show is, based on GIS techniques, how we are able to arrive using the LIDAR data, and how we are modeling it in HECRAS and DEM based analysis. Hope you can see the screen. Here this is the DM data. This is the aerial LIDAR data of the Unkal Lake. This is one of the scene which I showed. Here, the advantage of this is, second, I wanted to show you a demo. I want to click this. See, as we increase or decrease the water elevation, we can see the submergence level. This is the 610 RL elevation according to mean sea level. So here you can see 611. What happens if it is 612 and you can see how the water level can be varied, and you can view the animation of what is the submergence level, and all such analysis can be done. This is one of the case study. Since the network is slow, I'm experiencing a delay, a lag in showing you the demo. So another case study is at NIH, which we have done for a small lake, that is the Ambazari Lake. Here you can see how GIS in visualization the flood event. This is another lake called Ambazari Lake. Here you can see how the depth of water according to the timeline. Here you can see the time-based analysis will be doing. How GIS techniques will help in modeling the hydrodynamics of the flood event. So this is one of the flood event which we give the date and time, and based on that we can see how the flood behavior happens on a satellite imagery. So this is another demo which I wanted to show how we are using GIS to visualize the flood events and hydrodynamic models, and also how the LIDAR inputs have been very helpful in arriving at a lot of analysis in water resources management. So here another advantage is you can draw the micro catchments within the urban area. Within the urban area, the catchment areas there is very difficult to draw because of the change in topography. Here what we do is based on the LIDAR data, that is the current condition of the topography, we can draw different micro catchments in the urban area. Can see in and around lakes which are explored for their water capacity, tank capacities, and then how can be to draw the water to the towns. So,
Abhilash sir. Hello, Abhilash sir. Sir, this is Sandeep sir, host.
yeah,
There has been a problem with your internet connection. For some time, we could not be able to listen to you or see your video also, sir.
you're not able to listen.
Yes, sir. For 3 or 5 seconds, we could not be able to listen your audio, sir.
Is it clear?
Okay, sir. Now this is clear, sir. But you try to check the internet connection, sir. There is some problem with your internet connection. For some time, it was off.
Hello?
Hello. Okay, sir. You can continue, sir. But continue plus, but try to check on your
Connection.
internet, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello?
Hello. Hello. Sir, please continue, sir.
Are you able to hear me, sir?
Now I could be able to hear you. Continue, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay. So let me continue. So these micro catchments, what we arrive out of DEM from LIDAR data, we can use it in assessing the water quantity. So, and another advantage of satellite images and GIS techniques is we can digitize the rooftop areas, and we can see the what is the potential for rainwater harvesting, rooftop rainwater harvesting for the major buildings. So, and what compensation of water demand can be met through that. So another advantage is we have planned the recharge shafts and rainwater harvesting techniques in that. So for drinking water, one is rainwater harvesting, second one is the groundwater recharge, and exploring other water tank adjacent areas. So these three meet the demand for drinking water. So this was one of the case study. And another case study which we widely talk about is the land use land cover. So for this case study of EMPRI, which I was involved as, so we have done the land use land cover analysis, which everyone talks about land use land cover analysis, but there is a proper guidelines for carrying out the land use land cover analysis. Here we have carried out the land use land cover analysis in association with data, the topo sheet maps and grids, how satellite imageries are important, how Google Earth plays a role, Bhuvan portal thematic data, census maps and ground truth verifications are a very important part of land use land cover. And I will also show you how these land use land cover which we arrive from this data will be helpful in hydrological modeling in the further slides. So here you can see first we get the topo sheet grids, which are the topo sheets. Why topo sheets is important, I'll explain you in the further slides. And the next slide is of the satellite imagery. Of course, this is the major data product which we need for arriving at land use land cover. There's no doubt. So here you can see we have taken a list 4 imagery of 5 to 5.8 meter resolution, and 7 tiles we have taken and mosaiced it. And this comes up to the scale of 1:20,000. So whenever we are talking about land use land cover, we need to also address the scale of the land use land cover. That is either 1:20,000, or as I said earlier, 1:10,000 or 1:8,000 scale is the revenue survey cadastral maps. So if you take a satellite imagery of a lower resolution, you get the higher scale of digitization. So here you can see 1:20,000 scale is a lower scale than 1:50,000. So here you can see, to assess the change detection, that is the land use land cover change, I've used the same formula. So when you know the resolution of the imagery, here you can see 1 pixel measures around 4.99 or 5 meters. So if 1 pixel is 5 meters, then your scale of digitization and land use land cover will be 1:20,000 scale. So you need this to assess the accuracy of your land use land cover. And the second one is the Google Earth, the freely available portal where you get the satellite imagery of different timeline to see which feature, how it behaves. So we can see that in later imagery. Here you can see historical imagery, how it was. And as time passes, you can see, as I showed you earlier of Unkal Lake also, you can see timeline imageries. But of course, for your land use land cover studies, you might have fixed some timeline, which imagery which we will take. So that imagery we'll be using for that. And another portal is the Bhuvan, where it gives the past land use land cover data, that is 2005-6 and 11-12, and some other timeline land use land cover has already been prepared. This you can take it as a reference, collateral data for verifying whatever you are preparing. So another one is the taluk-wise census and village level data, where you will get the number of villages and demographics which are affected by these land use land cover changes. So we have identified all these villages which is in the buffer zone of Kaveri River for the legal purposes, which are impacted by, or who might be the role players in impacting for the land use land cover changes. So here, let me skip some of the slides which is not necessary. So these are the administrative boundaries. This is the length of the river. And so here in this methodology, in this GIS methodology, we'll be using land use land cover classification table. First, you need to know what all classes you have to do. And based on the imagery processing, you will be doing visual with the collateral data of Google Earth, topo sheets, and non-spatial data like field informations. And I have been involved in detecting the changes for a decadal from 2004 to 14. So here you can see these are the classes which we have decided to give importance and digitize the layers. So this is based on a guideline of ISRO, that is SysDP manual. So space-based information system, for that is SysDP manual we have used, and high resolution satellite imagery digitization has been carried out. So digitizing built up urban, classification of industrial transportation, these all belong to the built up areas. Here there is a definition for digitizing the built up areas, which is for urban category, rural category, industrial and transportation sectors. So these definitions play a very important role in categorizing your land use land cover data. As you can see, the population plays an important role, and what activities the people take part in, that is rural people take part in agricultural activities, that has to be important. And for industrial area, what is the criteria? And for transportation, which involves the roadways, railways, airports. So here, the cases here, this sector is looking alike as a built-up urban area, but whereas based on field visits and Google Earth collateral data, we can identify that this is an industrial layout. And anyway, roadways and railways you can identify. Here you can see this right side one is the Google Earth imagery and left side one is the false color composite of LIS4 imagery. And agriculture land, please note, there will always be a mistake in digitizing categorizing the agricultural plantations as well as the forest area. See here, you can see this density of the image which you are seeing in the Google Earth, as well as in the topo sheet, you can see that this is an estate. This is a agricultural plantation. These are coffee estates, which is in the Kodagu district. And this is a cropland which has got defined shapes. So this will have some rectangles or defined shapes, and this will be of agriculture plantation, which is of this category. Because why I'm saying this, because whenever you buy a satellite imagery, you will not have the judgment to decide whether it is agriculture plantation or it might be forest also. This looks forest too. So it depends. So it has got certain features. Cropped area appear in bright red color, or it can be contiguous or non-contiguous pattern, and agriculture plantation has certain characteristics. So here, as you can see, forest, this is the forest, dense forest, this has a different signature, and this is an open forest, this has a different behavior. And with the collateral data such as topo sheets, we can also verify that this is a dense mixed jungle and this is an open mixed jungle. So based on collateral data, we can decide what type of features you can digitize out of satellite imagery. So there are different classes: forest, open forest, which is the density will be less than 10%. For dense forest, the density will be more than 40%. Grassland, grazing land, and all can be identified. So here another feature is the scrubland. Scrubland is, these are open scrubland, these are dense scrublands, which can also be interpreted through topo sheet, that is open scrubland. It's a dense scrub layouts. So another, this feature is the sand deposit. Sand deposits appear in different signature, different color, and this is a barren rocky area. And this is the Google Earth imagery of how barren rockies can be identified. This has certain geological features which can be identified, and these are the sand deposit which can be also confirmed from the topo sheets. So here these are the streams, these are the drains. So streams and drains are of different orders. So streams and drains can be identified. And canals is of course man-made, and it can be mapped easily using a GPS survey or any other surveys. And reservoirs can be mapped easily, which is known because it contains large water spread area. So another confusion feature is the lakes or ponds. What is lake and what is pond? Ponds are artificial features which are of defined shape, and whenever you are digitizing lakes, it will be of different shapes. And rivers, streams, drains, streams, and canal. Lakes or ponds, you can digitize this, reservoir or tanks. So here, out of this GIS analysis, that is the land use land cover interpretations, based on GIS, we have manually visually digitized, and we have arrived at what is the increase or decrease in among different classes of land use land cover data. And the other important aspect is we have to know what category of land use has changed to what category. That is, if urban areas are increasing, what is decreasing? That is a major question which everybody likes to know. So here you can see that analysis, that networking analysis also we have been done. And you can see in built up urban area, The agriculture plantation has a contribution of 16.56 hectares, and cropland also has some contribution. Here in the urban regions, what we see generally is the cropland has been converted to the urban areas. And in rural regions, what happens is majority of the agriculture plantations contribute to the rural expansions, and cropland plays a very little role. So these are the change detections. Here you can see in 2002 how it was, and 2013 how the urbanization has expanded even in the rural areas, and how it has impacted the river status, the Kaveri river status, that has been studied. And this is one of land use land cover changes is one of the chapter, and there has been many other chapters as a part of the study. So I am just highlighting on the GIS role, how the applications of GIS has been useful in identifying these status of what hydrological features. So here you can see how the urbanization has expanded in different stretches of the river. So this is mainly due to tourism and other anthropogenic activities of expansion of industrial layout, maybe rural areas, urbanization, population explosion, many of the other reasons are there. So these are the different case studies of where it has been expanded and how we have identified. So here you can see there is a one warehouse which has come up in this region, so that we have digitized. So such changes in land use land cover can be identified. And let me tell you how it is useful in modeling the hydrological studies or hydrogeological studies. Here, this is our one of the case study in our office at NIH, where we are multidisciplinary experts, where different people have contributed their ideas, and how we are merging all these ideas in executing a study. So here, many of you may be aware of a lot of springs is available in Western Ghats. So to assess the potential and sustainability of the springs, we have carried out this study using also GIS techniques. Here you can see this is the catchment area for the spring. So this is one of the tanks which is for which the source is the spring. So this is from the satellite imagery and topo sheet, we have digitized the catchment area. And we have modeled in a SWAT where we have used the land use land cover for different changes. So what we do is in the catchment area, the land use land cover, we have changed from say forest area to different density of forest. Forest might change into the open forest or dense forest or evergreen forest, mixed forest. So different combinations we have changed for the area, and we have mapped how it changes the discharge capacity. And we are matching the least when it converts, when the land use land cover deteriorates and goes to the least condition, we'll be assessing the water potential of the area based on hydrological modeling. Here we can see different water demand based on the households. What we have done the survey, we are calculating what is the water demand for different purposes, water demand for them, and what is the outlet from the spring shed water, what is the outcome of springs, and what is the surface runoff, what is the tank capacity, and we'll be doing the water balance studies. Here you can see as the rainfall occurs, for the spring discharges, there's a lag. So the spring discharges continues till May. So May, February, March, April. So all the summer seasons, the spring discharge plays a very important role for the supply. So here in the SWAT output, as we can see, there's a decrease in water recharge whenever the land use land cover is changed. So that analysis we have done in the hydrological modeling, how the evaporation, evapotranspiration affects based on land use, how the groundwater recharge lateral flow affects in a change in land use. So this tree is what you are seeing, where we'll be giving the inputs of the land use land cover features. For the surface runoff, how it affects, how lateral flow affects, you can see. See, this is surface runoff is 450, whereas whenever the land use land cover is on a good terms, that will be 472. And this is of a different land use land cover. So as we change, so even the hydrological components also gives the results. So And one more important aspects of GIS techniques is different GIS thematic maps. So these play a very major role in deciding the action plan. Here we can see the geomorphological layer. See, this geomorphological layer shows that this is one of the major spring here, where there is a water tank here. You can see the spring here, and you can see the plateau highly dissected is here, where lot of recharge takes place. And this is the outer fringe of upper plateau where the spring discharge is seen. And this is the lateritic plain shadow where all the groundwater recharge extraction is taking place in the urban area. And coming to the slope aspects, here you can see there is a change in slope at this point where the spring occurs. And here you can see this is a 0 to 1% slope, and this is 1 to 3% slope, and the yellow color indicates around 5 to 10%. And the red color is of higher slopes. And the groundwater prospects, as you see, the groundwater prospects in this region, the storage is less, and whereas in this region it is quite good. And for the soil layers, you can see this is a loamy layer, and this is of a clay layer appears here, and this is of loamy skeletal layers. So as you can see, this is the cross section of the complete this case study in the catchment, where you can see the spring discharges. So here you can see in the hilly terrain on the top of the hill, it is highly weathered basalt. So we have a overburden thickness, the less overburden thickness. As we come down from the spring, the overburden reduces. This overburden and rock outcrops reduces. Here there is a spring, and here there is a water body where it can be used for recharge for unconfined aquifers. So this is the lake, this is near the spring, this is the spring, the first lake one is near the spring, this temple has a spring, and lake 2 is on the downstream, and this is lake 3, which is used for recharge purposes, and lake 4 is just besides the lake 3. So here, as you can see, this is spring recharge zone, this is the discharge zone, and this is the well recharge zone in this layout. Here you can see this is the spring zone, and this is a stream which is contributing to the springs, and this is the catchment area, and this is the downstream of this lake, and which connects to the lake. So here what we are planning is based on different thematic maps and based on various hydrological analysis carried out on GIS platform, we are analyzing which area is suitable as a recharge for the downstream lakes. And here recharge and livestock purposes, we have identified this lake, and this is used for some agricultural purposes nearby and used for recreational purposes, the last lake. So this is the catchment area which we have modeled from hydrological modeling software, that is SWAT, and we have developed various action plan which areas are suitable for recharge structures. Based on different thematic maps, we have identified these recharge structures where the infiltration trenches has to be there, where the boulder checks and recharge wells can be carried out. So this is the action plan, some of the various studies which has been seen elsewhere. This is the check dam kind of boulder checks, where it also arrests the speedy runoff of the water near the springs. And we have also identified the areas for the spring. This is the spring area, as you can see. This is the geology of the area, and some of our students team which had done internship on this project, they have measured the feasibility of the recharge sites. They have measured the location dimensions and all. So this is the springs, this is the lake, and this is the recharge site. And they've also measured the groundwater levels. How is the groundwater status? So these are some of the field information, and this is the land use land cover of the region. See, as you can see, this is a kind of open forest. This is not evergreen. So in summer, it reflects a different signatures. So this is kind of open forest which has density of nearly 10 to 20%. So as we change the land use land cover, the discharge in this lake also changes during summer seasons. So this is during monsoon, post-monsoon season, how the spring discharges occurs. There are many number of springs in the hilly region, and we have also studied just water quality just to check whether it is suitable for drinking water purposes. And another case study where we have used the GIS maps is, I'll quickly run through this case study. This is one of the case study where there's a lift irrigation, kind of lift of some TMC of water from Upper Bhadra to the drought prone districts of Chitradurga. So there's a lot of canal and tunnel alignment which is going via different ridges and valleys. And here for one of the tunnel region, we had done the watershed development program where it was feared that these lakes and might get this activity of tunnel which has been shown here. This is the line is the canal alignment and the tunnel stretch, where to this we have done a watershed development program based on we have used the soil drainage slope, we have taken infrastructure, we have taken meteorological data, we have developed a database, and this flowchart which you are seeing is nothing but the IMSD guidelines, which gives us the guideline how to arrive action plan from different thematic sources. So we have come up with the action plan of developing farm ponds, invert wells, check dams, based on the criteria which is provided CWB and CW. So their guidelines provide that where farm ponds has to be located, where check dams has to be located, where invert wells has to be located. So based from our thematic maps, we'll be getting what is the slope, what is the infiltration rate based on the soil layer, and will categorize different regions. So let me show you with the pictures. So what is the number of order of the streams which has been digitized? Here we have taken an important data product which is Cartosat 2, which is of 1 meter resolution. It gives a 1 meter resolution. So here you can see each and every land parcels are visible on a very high scale. And this is a geomorphology and groundwater prospects map where in this hilly region, as you can see, this is the hilly region. This part is the hilly region where the groundwater recharge is less. The groundwater storage is less. Here you can see denudational hills, the groundwater prospects is poor to nil. And as you come down to the valley fill zone, the groundwater prospect seems to be good. So based on this thematic map and where the decision rules has to be applied. That is, the decision rules are dugout ponds are generally created by excavating pits in having flat topography. So you have to identify flat topography. Geomatics in 0 to 1 and gentle slope of 1 soil. So whichever is in the dark green and light green, those regions are feasible for flat slopes where dugout ponds can. The infiltration rates are less in this the darker colors except this yellow color. So this red color indicate the hydrological soil group ID, that is which is having the minimum infiltration rates, which is orange color and red color. So based on this overlay analysis of different thematic maps, we have identified the areas where the farm ponds can come, that is in the triangle areas, and the circular ones, the invert wells, and we have also identified which are the land parcels which will be benefited out of this watershed development plan. Here you can see the different land parcels who are the beneficiary farmers and where the invert wells, farm ponds and check dams are considered. Here, let us see the check dam. Here you can see in check dam, it has to be constructed in lower order streams because higher order streams will have higher velocity of water flow during monsoons, which also should have medium slopes. And the catchment area should be at least 25 hectares. Infiltration rates also to be considered. So here what we do is, we in GIS, we put up a rule that it has to be third order streams, slope areas should be less than 15%, and soil having moderate infiltration rate, that is hydrological soil group B and hydrological soil group C. So here, based on different thematic maps, here you can see check dams are identified based on slope. This is the infiltration rate map. And based on the catchments, we have catchment delineated minimum 25 hectares, and you can see the catchments where all the check dams can be located based on also the stream. The stream has been highlighted which are having higher order, that is third orders and below. So decision rules for invert wells is excess surface water availability should be there. So therefore, the junction between stream and connecting bodies are selected and analyzed on cadastral database for land suitability. Here, these are the invert wells where we have planned for recharging groundwater. Another important aspect of GIS techniques is we can also develop isochrones. Here you can see different isochrones have been developed for flood studies. Isochrone curves are the lines connecting points in a watershed that has equal times of concentration. I don't think without GIS interpretation, it might be very difficult for developing isochrones and developing flood hydrograph for the watershed. This gives a flood behavior, that means the area under 1 takes some time to arrive the flood, and the farthest point is the 10, which takes a longer duration to arrive the flood at the point number 1 at the mouth of the catchment. So the last case study which I want to tell, I will just brief within few minutes. The groundwater studies which can be done using GIS techniques. Here you can see, as I said, we can use different thematic maps for integration into the model. So as we see, one study for the catchment, Kumudvati catchment in the Bangalore rural area. Here, this is located in Nelamangala and Magadi Taluk majorly. And this is the location which is on the upper reaches of the Kaveri. And here, the methodology is very simple. We'll be doing the, I'll show you how GIS is helpful in identifying the trends. And always, also I have told the land use dynamics already change detection data. And if there is no significant change in rainfall, it has to be the land use which is impacting the groundwater recharge. So using the rainfall data and static groundwater levels, will be deriving the groundwater well relationship with the rainfall, and different thematic maps which I've already told for recharging techniques. So I'll gently brief you on rainfall trend and how it has been modeled. So we have taken different stations. This is the rainfall stations, and we have mapped the rain gauges using a GIS model. We have done the isoids for this. So we have developed a tool for that, which can interpret the data and show the trend. Kendall analysis. So this is the Mann-Kendall analysis. As you can see, the blue color indicates the increasing trend, and yellow color shows the decreasing or neutral trend. So in the monsoon season, you can see upper reaches as a increasing trend, and in the lower reaches it has a decreasing trend. And this is different seasons. So January to December, what are the trends we have done? So based on this trend, we can identify which are the stretches getting less rainfall over the years due to climate change. And anyway, land use land cover, as I told you before, that has different guidelines. What is the changes? Here you can see how the forest has reduced, how the built up wastelands have increased, and how agriculture lands have decreased. All such analysis has been done. And the simple technique is using the groundwater recharge based on water table fluctuation method. The same methodology has been integrated in the GIS platform. And we have some empirical formulas to detect the groundwater, and you have groundwater estimation methodology. And we have developed the GIS model. Here you can see GIS model based on water level fluctuations. We have developed one layer of water level of pre-monsoon, one layer of post-monsoon, and the difference in level multiplied by specific yield will give you the groundwater recharge, that is based on raster math operations. So based on that operations, these are the Thiessen polygons for the study area, that is for the rain gauge data. Here you can see the rainfall trends, and here as I wanted to show you the results, you can see the groundwater recharge is around 4 to 6%. Here you can see 4%. This is in 2004. In 2008, it has been identified as 6%. This is for the 4 years duration, which is published by Departments of Mines and Geology and CGWB. And here you can classify the groundwater hydrograph in GIS. Here you can see how the groundwater behavior is there. And based on different thematic maps, the GIS modeling approach has been used, that is ArcHydro groundwater tool has been used for pre-monsoon and post-monsoon average groundwater level in the catchment. And here you can see this is the pre-monsoon water level map and this is the post-monsoon. When we deduct, we get delta H. When we divide it by the rainfall, we get some equation that is nothing but when we multiply it by the specific yield, we get the mean recharge, that is around 5%. You can see the recharge in 2008. This is the sample run for 2008 is 5% recharge, which is same as recharge which is published by the CGWB. Here you can see for the same watershed, it has been published by 5.9%. Recharge 6% has been shown, but with the more finer data, we are getting more accurate results of 5% recharge. This is the 5% recharge. So when we develop the equation for long-term recharge procedures in the catchment, for watershed, we can, using GIS, we can develop the equations, the linear equation, so which will give you G is equal to 0.21 P minus 458.3. So this is the equation for the recharge for this catchment. So this is just the abstract, what is the recharge which is taking place using GIS analysis. So these are the different thematic maps which, as I told you earlier, which has been based on IMSD guidelines, we'll be deciding where the recharge structure has to come, where check dams can come, where farm ponds can come, what actions can be taken. So this practically has been also implemented, and it has been observed that based on these techniques, water level gets a good boost up in the groundwater. Water level recharges has been seen, and impact assessment has been studied. So I end my talk on GIS applications in water resources. So if any doubts you can ask me, and if any further correspondence is required on detailed steps you want to know, then you can approach me using this email ID. So I'll end my presentation here. Thank you very much for listening for this lecture.
Thank you very much, sir, for this wonderful informative presentation. I would ask all the participants if they have any question, they can ask your questions. You can open up your mic, introduce yourself, and ask the question, or else write in the chat section. I'll read out the question to our speaker. So there was a question which was asked in the middle of your presentation. So I reserved that question to ask you later. How to detect the level of pollution in oceans or in lakes through GIS?
There is one technique which has been studied in ISRO where they are trying to attribute the pollution levels to the signatures of the water, the reflectance what we get in the satellite imageries, but that has been not completely proved. For that, what we are using, as I showed you, we are using the GIS apps, and we are collecting the water quality data on spot, on site, and we are analyzing and we are attributing it to the GIS locations, and then further analysis can be carried out.
Okay, thank you. So there is another question: how to get the app of GIS?
Sir, that app is paid version, that is ArcGIS. When you purchase ArcGIS, they will provide you a free version of the how you can develop the apps, and apps is very simple. And apps is not only provided by them, apps is also provided by different GIS service providers, like even there's a Hexagon, that is Erda's Imagine, which was called earlier. Now Hexagon has taken over, and they also provide the app developing capabilities, where you can develop your own app for any purposes. It is not restricted to any organization. You can have your own server in your own office, and you can simply develop an app where your field officers can customize it and go to the field and collect the data. Any more questions, sir?
So there are no questions being asked in this chat section. So is there any other question from the participant side?
Hello, sir. This is Vinayak from BB Technology, BB College of Engineering Technology. Hello.
Okay, sir. Go on with your questions.
Sir, actually, right now I'm working on the rainfall runoff modeling. So right now I'm in a very basic stage. Currently I'm learning about the GIS software and all. So to model the rainfall runoff relationship, what are the basic requirements and what are the basic data we need to procure?
See, most of the data is available online, freely available data is there for rainfall runoff modeling. There's software from eWater, there's software from SWAT, there's some other different softwares which is based on simple inputs. So one is you can go with the land use land cover data. The finer the land use land cover data you feed, like as you can see in our case studies, we have manually digitized the land use land cover of a very finer scale. The more finer scale of land use land cover and soil data and elevation data we have used from LIDAR. So it accurately digitizes the catchment. And whenever we are preparing the land use land cover from a very high resolution satellite imagery, your outputs will be of that quality. So if you are taking on a coarser level, which is online available, which is on a coarser scale, your results are based on that coarser scale. So you have to calibrate the model to get accurate data.
Thanks, sir. Yes, sir. That's it, my question.
Hello. There are a few more questions in the chat section. There is a question being asked from SB Badiger. Can you please explain the procedure of using QSWAT in urban flood modeling?
Sir, urban flood modeling, I cannot explain you the specific procedures. What we are doing the case study is based on the logic. First, we go with the equations, and GIS is like a tool. You have a screwdriver or any other spanner or something. I cannot teach you where you can apply it. I can just give you what is the application of it, how you can use it. So the application in your real life problems has to be developed by you. Here, based on the case studies, we have developed the GIS app, we have developed the model in GIS platform. Even in QGIS, there are plugins. There are plugins for urban watershed modeling. There is QSWAT. There are stormwater modeling software is there. SWWM is there. So different softwares have got different add-ons. But what I suggest you is stick on to the basics, which is you cannot just model it just based on whatever the model gives output. You don't know what is happening in and out. So you should know the basics of it and start developing the equations and in the GIS platform. Also, I want to say, nowhere in my all the case studies, there is nowhere a model which is doing on its own. So it is based on our logic, will be going with the models.
So there is another question, sir. Out of ArcGIS and QGIS, which one is the better software?
No, this this is quite controversial. I cannot just favor ArcGIS or QGIS. See, let me tell you what all the GIS software which I am using. See, starting from AutoCAD, you can perform all the GIS operations from AutoCAD, Google Earth. You can use different softwares. As I told you, I'm not using only ArcGIS. See, for satellite imageries, for certain things, we'll be using HECRAS. That is for flood modeling. For satellite imagery derivations, we'll be using the EDA software. For collateral data, we'll be using Google Earth. So QGIS is useful in a few of the hydrological tools. For different steps, we'll be using different softwares. Finally, you will be getting the data products for your steps. So your steps, as I said, the logic you have to define. Later on, you have to go ahead with the different softwares for obtaining different data. That's all I can say. I cannot say that ArcGIS is better or QGIS is better, because certain operations is good in QGIS, certain operations is good in ArcGIS.
So there is another question. Which remote sensing technique is the best for investigation of groundwater potential zone?
Sir, groundwater potential zones is based on a logic. That is, as I said, there are different thematic maps. They might be lineament, they might be geological aspect, they might be geomorphological aspects, they might be even land use aspects. So based on different themes, you can use any software to arrive at your basics. So based on different overlapping, as I showed you before, let me reiterate in one of the slides. It is pretty simple. Based on geomorphology, you can just assume that is already given. See, in this, as you can see, this is one of the map. This is a geological map where they will also give you the groundwater prospects. So based on geomorphology, you can also define what might be the groundwater potential. So other things you can, as I said, you can collect the groundwater levels based on open wells or dug wells. Either you can take a GPS reading and plot it, and based on different thematic maps, overlay analysis of different thematic maps, you can arrive at the groundwater prospect zones.
Okay, so the other questions, like for example, in which OS, whether in Windows or MacBook, the GIS application works better? That is one question. And the other question which has been asked is in remote sensing and GIS, I guess the person wants to understand what is the difference between remote sensing and GIS.
See, let me explain you on the first thing, that is the application, that is which OS is better, Windows or MacBook. So I have tried MacBook, but most of the software won't perform as much better. Like perform in the sense, certain add-ons or your own customized tools won't work in MacBook. So here Windows, what happens is, in Windows, what happens is, you can customize the tools. You can develop your own tools. You can develop your own software. Software in the sense, some additional tools for the GIS operations. Let me jump to the next one, that is the remote sensing or GIS. What is the difference? See, GIS is remote sensing is only the data products. Whatever the data you get from the remote place, you are sitting in office, you are getting some data. That is the remote sensing data. That is like, it can be LiDAR data, it can be total station data, it can be GPS readings, or any other collateral data which is based on remote sensing. You are not sensing it, you are remotely sensing, remotely accessing it. So now you are accessing the this PPT remotely. So this is a kind of remote sensing concept. And GIS is the geographical information system or information science. You are developing, you are doing model based on the location. That's all. It is based on geography, and you are attaching the information and you are analyzing it on a spatial platform. Whereas whenever you analyze in Excel sheet or whenever you are designing something, there is nowhere that geography is coming into picture or information which is based on location based information is coming into picture. Therefore, in GIS, what happens is you can relate different geographical features like adjacent roads are there, bus stops are there, a nearby reservoir is there. You can relate to that and start your analysis. So that is GIS, and remote sensing is just a technique where you will be obtaining the remote sensing data.
Any source for materials for decision making based on different overlay analysis to decide recharge zones.
See, overlay analysis is very simple. You are overlaying one layer on top of the other. You can use many GIS operations. But for source materials, there are certain guidelines. In ISRO, you can refer NRSC website. They might have some manuals, but I've got from some other sources where I've got those manuals. There are SysDP, there are IMSD, International Integrated Mission for Sustainable Development. That is IMSD guidelines published by ISRO. There, you can refer IMSD guidelines for overlay analysis of different thematic maps. There are certain case studies which has been done, and NRSC publishes application of remote sensing in various sectors. You can refer those case study that has been published and it is available online, different case studies.
So, is there any other question from the participant side? Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Abhilash, sir. There are no more questions being asked to you. I'll ask our HOD, head of department, to give away the vote of thanks.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening from all. It is at the end of the 2 days international webinar session, and it's my privilege to propose vote of thanks to all. First, let me thank Mr. Abhilash for his participation or his active answering all the questions with patience, because the questions are, some questions are very basic questions were there. Still then he answered very well.
Yes,
thank you once. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And
thank you.
Okay, then my sincere thanks to all speakers, distinguished and they are expert in your subjects or even field. That is MC Mohan Kumar, IISc Bangalore, Dr. VP Hubisa, Professor of CET, and Shruti Upadhyay, Associate Research, NWC University, USA, and Mr. Abhilash also, that is scientist, then NIH, Belgavi. Once again, I thank all the speakers for sparing their valuable time and delivering their talk in this 2 days international webinar. And I also extend my all thanks to all the participants who are actively participated. First of all, I'll thank for registering the large number we have got the registration. Similarly, the active participation in the 2 days international webinar on this particular event of the water resources. And this finally, I would like to special thanks to my all organizers, especially its coordinators, Prashant Topalkatti, Sangrama Patil, and conveyors, Sandeep Pota. 2 days they will be busy with you all, and for them it is a special thanks to for my department and myself. Thank you once again. Thank you all.
Thank you, madam, for being our constant support in organizing such kind of events. And it has been a new experience for us to organize such kind of events, and there is a lot of exposure for us to this outside world. And most probably in many of the colleges, they won't be considering to make webinars on water resource engineering, and we make this exception, and we try to put more efforts in implementing such kind of webinars. Thank you very much. I thank to my colleagues also, Prashant Topalkatti sir and Sangoda Patil. I also thank our principal, Ulayeri sir, and a special thanks to all the participants who have come to this webinar, and thanks for helping us solve this kind of webinar without any interruption. Okay, and thank you so much for Abhilash sir also. For all the participants, we'll send you the certificates, but we are going to send you a link in which you will give the feedback for all the 4 lectures that you attended. you can give any suggestions that you would like to give us if there is any change that we have to make. And if there is any problem that you have faced during this webinar, you can express over there. Thank you so much for joining with us. The further link will be sent to in the chat section. We will keep this video session open for another 5 to 10 minutes. So within that time, you can send your feedback. Okay. So if there is any question, if there is any suggestion that you would like to give us from your side as a participant with respect to the whole webinar that we conducted, you can go ahead and give us a suggestion openly also. Or else anyway, you can give it in your feedback. Thank you so much. Thank you, Abhilash sir. If you are busy, you can leave, sir. For participants, you please stay and you fill the form, feedback form, which is been sent to you.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.